Om Atma Tvam Girijamati Sahachara Prana Shariram Griham Pujate Vishayopabogarachana Nidra Samadhi Sthiti Sanchara Pradayo Pradakshina Vidhi Stotrani Sarva Giro Yad Yad Karma Karomi Tat Tadakilam Shambho Tavaradanam. O Lord, Thou art myself. The Divine Mother is my mind. My vital airs, my pranas, are Thy followers. And my body is likened to a temple. My sense experiences I regard as offerings made unto Thee. My sleep is a form of samadhi. My wandering about is like circumambulating You, and my words are like prayers. O beneficent Lord, whatever I do, may all this be Thy worship. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good morning, everybody. And we'll be discussing today discovering the real temple. Humans have had this peculiar, you can say, impulsion to know their origins and they know their destiny. Where do they come from? Where do they go? And this has impelled all search, all types of knowledge. We look around, it's a beautiful world. But on a deeper level, it is mysterious. It's like we are in the middle of the known and the unknown. And of course, the world is mysterious, nature is mysterious, and the biggest mystery is we all. We are mysterious even to ourselves. So, religions, and I'm talking about it in the broadest sense of the term, were attempts in trying to understand the mystery behind all existence. There were some which can be known and some which can be known only when you transcend your own limitations. Because as long as we are bound by the senses, we derive knowledge, yes. But the very essence of existence will never be found in the sensory world. And so, this was an attempt, the human mind attempting to understand the origins and the destiny and the mystery. Temples predate civilizations. There is no doubt about it. Even our hunter-gatherer ancestors, they marked due to some kind of reason, some space as sacred. And as opposed to the profane or the secular. They said, don't violate this, otherwise the gods or the resident spirits or the ancestors will be annoyed and get angry. And it is there they go. Why did they have such places in the first place? Well, due to some kind of either psychic activity or something like that, they must have intuited as something here that's not normal, it's paranormal, not abnormal. And in time, these places became centers or places where they identified themselves with. And that slowly drew the rest of the members of the society. Another development during this time, or even earlier, is the idea of sacrifice. Now, when did this cognitive leap happen? We do not know. But it is for sure that they studied nature, they plant a seed or a crop or something like that, and they see if it's tended in time, they received a bounteous harvest, a tree is grown. And this is what the idea that if you put in something now, taken a little trouble, it will fructify in time. This was a primeval idea of sacrifice. So people brought in, ideas in this sacred place, things like fruits, flowers, roots, berries, and even animals, whatever they had, they used to give it to that, place it on the altar, or make maybe a makeshift altar or something like that. And they thought that in time this will reward us. The presiding deity or some gods or something that they feel is the presence there will reward you. So this sacrifice, and of course it was translated to all places. Like life itself was held to be a sacrifice. You don't sacrifice your time now, you won't get anything later. You want time and energy, whatever. You have to do it now. And so along with this sacred space, then came the idea of sacrifice. And this was the beginning of religion. And then you can see how they formalized it. You can just take your offerings and throw it around. Okay, place it here. And in a kind of a form, and you got to be reverent and this and that. Because the early humans were afraid of everything around them. They saw that these natural phenomena, at times it turned and became violent. That same beautiful breeze that you are feeling now can become a storm. So this is how slowly they understood that, like there's something that animates my body. So there must be something that must be animating these phenomena. So then they sacrificed to this wind god and the sun god and the moon god and the sky god and the earth god and gods everywhere. And then they said, okay, this god likes this and that god likes this. Okay, they came the variety. So in a way, it became a focal point of that particular society, that tribe, or whatever you like to call it. And like it became part of not only the psychology, but the culture also, the thought processes. See what happens, like it attracted all types of people. You had masons, and you had like engineers, and you had artists, and you had musicians, and all these people are also being attracted to it. And like a heart that beats, it also diffuses. It draws in and it pushes out. Thus, religious culture spread to all the members of the tribe or a community or society. So it was hard. Life patterned itself round the temple. You want to ask anything, you are doubtful, go to the temple. Ask with God. And you see this not only in the East, but half of your Greek and Roman culture was nothing but this. It patterned around the temples. Temples, all the deities. Of course, modern writers don't like to affirm that part of society, but it was, these gods became very important. So here it is. Slowly these places now became important. And then they had to have a caretaker, etc., etc. Nobody should violate this. So you had priests, and then they became the priest, and we had these in the Greek temples and all. We had these massive Vestal virgins that they tended the fire and tended everything. And there was a class of people dedicated to the preservation of the temple and its, you can say, traditions. So what was that? They felt that it was here, like as it were the heavens and the earth met. It was a focal point where a person could interact with the gods. And you see this in all mythologies. Humans interacting with the gods coming down and talking to them, sometimes behaving like us. Sometimes we are behaving like as if we are gods. And it became their life, their culture, their psychology, their everything. One thing you must understand, people are like dismissive about temples. That was an old idea of religion. But every saint that has ever lived, almost all saints, I won't say every, there will always be exceptions to everything, have been produced through worship, through a temple. Yes, and this not only in the East, but also in the West. You will find temples, I'm taking this temple in the sense of all, like synagogues and mosques and churches, etc., etc. So this was one powerful impetus given to society, that there were certain individuals that transcended like ordinary human weaknesses. They were very saintly. And all the virtues that we see in them, that we had attributed to the gods, we see them in this person. So these are God people, God men or God women. And they sanctified these temples. You will see all the saints, they are going to the temples and praying, etc., or going to a deity and praying and worshipping and performing penances, etc. This was another kind of factor which brought people to the temples. The idea that divinity can be manifested and is tangible and can be brought out through worship and prayer, etc., meditation, became a reality now. Now, you say, oh, the temples, nothing but idolatry. Worship of idols, that's the worst thing, this is temple worship. Idols are temple worship. And there have been people going all over the world trying to break these temples, and you can see the idols and everything. And the world has been much poorer because of that. Swami Vivekananda says, if a man can realize his divine nature with the help of an image, would it be right to call that a sin? Not even when the person has passed the stage should one call it an error. To the Hindu, a person is not traveling from error to truth, but from lower truth to higher truth. And this, you cannot deny your own childhood, saying, I was never that baby that I see here. Nah, you are that baby, a big grown up. So similarly, temples were like, the kindergarten of spirituality. In certain cultures, Swami Vivekananda says, it's good to be born in a church, but bad to die there. You have to outgrow the church. And later on, as I quoted that Sanskrit hymn, then your life itself becomes a kind of a worship, and the body itself is a temple. Another aspect of this temple and temple worship and all these things is like the idea of mandalas, which was popularized by Carl Jung in the West. It's fascinating. It's an ancient, very ancient concept in the Vedas, the scriptures in India. The idea is they looked at nature. Everything is cyclic. Everything has a pattern. From the smallest to the largest. And now we can see from the very atom to the galaxies, all they have a pattern. And it's circular. Everything is a cycle. Everything moves around. Birth, growth, old age, and death. And everything is a cycle in this nature. So mandalas were designed according to this cyclic patterns of nature. In the psychic realm, also there are patterns. Yeah, consciousness also. I remember in LA, I had gone out to a kind of a interfaith meeting, and the children were painting mandalas. I said, oh, wonderful. I said, do you remember do you know what you're drawing? Oh, it's a nice, pretty design. Yeah. It's actually a map of consciousness. It's not just a design. And what? Yeah. So it looks simple, but it's a map of consciousness. So this body itself is, in a way, a mandala. The universe is a mandala. The temple is a mandala. So temples were the go-to places to awaken this mandala, so they can understand the mandala of the universe. So in all ancient temple designs, you will see a pattern, and they are very strict about these kind of designs. Especially in India, South India, you will find the particular directions and particular designs, and everything is nothing but a mandala. Seen from above, it's a mandala. So what is it? It's intricate geometric design was meant as an aid for meditation and self-realization. It's not just pure or. So it also means that there's an interconnectedness. The mandalas also show the interconnectedness of all life. Everything, the mind, and matter and spirit even was a great mandala. So temples represented the mandala. You, the universe and everything there. And so with the proliferation of these temples and everywhere, Swami Vivekananda says the Vedas have two main sections. The earlier section, we don't know how old it is, and the latter section. The earlier sections deals with only rituals and karmas, the ancient fire sacrifices, etc. That's why it was nothing called, it's called a karma kanda. And the later section, the latter sections are called Upanishads. In time, in the earlier sections, rituals and all these fire sacrifice had proliferated at such an alarming rate that it was difficult to extricate things from them. There were some sages who took the mystic path, who said, okay, these are external, all these rituals, etc., external, but there is an internal part of it, which is meditation. So instead of wasting your time with these things, because it was, by that time it had become pretty expensive to perform a big sacrifice. And there were those guys who said, we don't have all that money to throw around to the gods. They internalized those very sacrifices here inside. That elaborate karma outside had now become an elaborate karma within. This was the beginning of meditations, the practices of meditations. Of course, not that the ritualists were not meditating, but now it is technically it's called upasanas. This was the beginning also of yoga. Yoga also, that's why it has a very long history. It's not just Patanjali in the yoga aphorisms. Nah. He was just a compiler. So he said that, and as it was growing this way, so they're like Swami Vivekananda kind of gives them, puts it in a kind of a dialogue. So he says, there was a great tussle between the ritualists, and still in some parts of India, there's still that tussle, okay? The Karmakandis and the Jnanakandis. These guys will criticize those guys, and these guys will criticize those guys. So Jaimini is a compiler of the sutras, of the karma. And the Upanishads, etc., the compiler. Vyasa is the compiler of the Vedanta Sutras. So they said, the ritualist said, here is a symbol of fire. And then the Vedantins, these Upanishadic sages says, very good. But here is another symbol, the earth. What a great symbol. And they said, here is a little temple. But they countered it, but the whole universe is a temple. A person can worship anywhere. Here are these peculiar figures and symbols, etc., drawn about here and there. And then it was countered, they say, but here is the greatest of all altars, the living, conscious human body. And to worship at this altar is far greater than the worship of any dead symbols. So you find a shift that's happening. And it wasn't a very easy shift. They had to debate about the merits of ritualism, and these guys were debating on the merits of just internalizing those ideas and bringing it out in the form of the Upanishads. So in one of the Upanishads, he says, how the internalization processes became. So in the Chandogya Upanishad, we find, they say, the other world Gautama, that's the sage, telling the sage Gautama, another sage, the sun is its fuel, the rays are the smoke, the day is the flame, the moon is the embers, and the stars are the sparks. In this fire, the gods pour libation of faith, and from this libation, King Soma is born. So this entire external universe, that which they were used to, they used to use those things in the form of, there was, like I said, there were these fire sacrifices to the various deities, etc. And here in this, it's a very important sacrifice called the Soma Yagna, Soma Yaga, Soma sacrifice. And then he says, in this libation, in this sacrifice, saying, you need not make oblation to that little fire. The whole world is that fire. And this oblation, this worship, is continuously going on. The gods and the demigods, etc., everywhere are worshipping it. The human body is the greatest symbol of the sacrifice. So the external fire now, which represented the world outside, now it's internalized. The human body itself is the greatest symbol of fire. And though it was here that we see the idea of religion becoming practical. It was getting internalized so they can connect it with every activity of theirs. So they're saying this, there are so many beautiful symbols all around. Yeah. And religion becomes richer because of this symbology. But the greatest symbol is this human body thing. You can invent an image of a god, but you already, the mind exists, which is a conscious mind. It is here that one needs to seek and dive into. But then, in today's world, you can see the whole idea is the body is everything. The mistake with worshipping the body as materialist and worshipping it as, according to the ideas of Vedanta, it's a symbol of the divine. You have a body, wonderful. What, and there are a couple of doctors here, they'll tell you, my God, it's difficult to get a body. And once you get a body, don't waste it. It's a symbol now of the divine. And the divine can be manifested through this. Otherwise, you'll be stuck up with the body idea. Everything, all the creams and all the powders and everything is just better polish the inside. So the idea of the Upanishads is to be understood like that. The body and the mind and the senses and the vital force, the intellect even, are just symbols, channels for manifesting the divine. So the human life itself becomes an entirety of worship. So this idea, where did it come from? Again, we have to go back to the Upanishads. There's a mantra in the Mahanarayana Upanishad, one of the great Narayana Upanishads, says, in the citadel of the body, he's saying, the sage says, there is a small, sinless space. There's a heart, pure heart. It's a pure heart of the lotus. We have this, nowadays we are used to calling it chakras. Some yogis call it lotus of the heart. So he says, in the citadel of the body, there is a small, sinless and pure lotus of the heart, which is the residence of the divine. Further, in the interior of this small space, there is a sorrowless space that has to be meditated upon continuously. And what do we find in that? Now we see this vast universe and this space. There's a vaster, even a vaster universe there in that space in the heart. There you will find the universe rising like bubbles and merging. Is it there? Yes. It seems so, so crazy to think that here in that space of the heart, it's called a Hridaya Akasha. In that supreme space of the heart, where the Supreme dwells, there are entireties of universes there. All the heavens and all the earths and everything, that is the meeting place of the divine and the human, as it were. And it was this idea, maybe it was subconscious, that was impelling us to project this outside. And as we projected it outside, we built all those temples, etc., outside. But the idea was there. And, well, if that is really there, not really, if it is there, it will come out to you, to a mind that's not trained. It will come out to you in dreams, in visions, in intuitions. But if you train yourself as a yogi and go inside, that's a different thing. You'll come face to face with that. I'll quote it in the original sense. Daharam vipapam parameshwa bhutam yat pundarikam puramadda sadam tatrapi daharam vishokam tadantarasya tadupasitavyam. So in that sorrowless space, in a way, it's just a space of bliss. And bliss is an aspect of reality. Like, if you have bliss, then you will have to have consciousness also. That very thing is existence. That's why the reality in Vedanta is called existence, consciousness, bliss. They are not three qualities or three substances or three, you can say, aspects. Existence is consciousness, is bliss. So we are conscious, we exist, and we are blissful, mostly. No, actually we are. We are searching for happiness, that's a different thing. And we are searching for happiness, why? Because we are disconnected with our own reality. That's why we are searching for happiness. We are searching for happiness. What's this? Searching for pleasure. You don't have to search. It's your own nature. So searching is you are searching for your own nature, but outside. In objects. You got to search for your own reality within. And there you will get it. So this was the ancient idea that was projected, the ancient reality that is projected outside. So we will always have temples, because that old, ancient, primeval temple is here within us. So the human mind, and no, not any other agency, is responsible for this externalization, because the mind works on the principle of externalization. It's called in the yoga and in the Vedanta, it's called pravritti. You take something and you externalize it constantly. That's the nature of the mind, to project things outside. When this tendency breaks, then it will be the internalization, the nivritti. Then comes all real spirituality. Till that time, it was just kindergarten. You're going to grow up. Is there a necessity for these temples? Of course. But modern people have found no use in it. Yeah. And that's the reason why you see churches are now either being sold or something like that, and there's a dwindling attendance everywhere. So to keep up appearances, they have to get into cultural events and social work, etc., to kind of bring people. You've lost that, or you're veered away from that real kernel of spirituality, which going into a sacred space was supposed to invoke. So in these sacred spaces, what happens is, in the Narada Bhakti Sutras, Narada, in one of his aphorisms, says, Tirtham kurvanti tirthani. The worshippers, they create that spirituality there. They renew it rather. So when people go and congregate in a sacred space, that sacred space becomes even more sacred. Because the mind, which is thinking of noble thoughts and spiritual thoughts, as it were, congeal. It's not tangible, but when you go to a place, a temple or a church or anything, you'll see the idea of holiness coming into you. That is because there are layers and layers of this. It's called tanmatras, subtle vibrations there. The mind is nothing but a vibration. Thoughts are nothing but vibrations. Vibration, it's energy. So you invest in all that energy, that purified energy into that place, and it becomes denser and denser and denser. So we find through meditation, etc., you can enter into that sacred space. Yes, you can. But everyone is not competent to this. They will close their eyes and sit down, and they are more worried about their text message that they are expecting, or some call they're expecting, or what they did. They are ruminating actually on their own subconsciousness. Yeah, that becomes a kind of, that's not meditation. Oh, I did a good meditation today. What did you ruminate on? You've been thinking of your own mind. That is not meditation. Meditation is there, you go and think of the divine. So, if in 1 hour of meditation, you might, for 10 or 15 minutes, you might think of the divine. The rest of it is, because the mind is restless by its nature. That's why in the majority of cases, you need a place where you can focus on the external aspect of that divinity outside. And as you focus it, then you can internalize. You can keep your eyes open, focus it, and again go back inside. And then the idea of collective spirituality is growing nowadays, the idea. In the old days, there were the yogis, still there, of course, not old days. They used to take themselves out, go in a cave or in a forest and meditate and meditate and meditate. But now you see the difference when you sit down at home alone and meditate, or if you're sitting down in a group, in a sacred space. My meditation will affect yours. Your meditation will affect. It's a collective, you can say, spirituality that flows there. It becomes more intense. Your meditation becomes more intense. Swami Shivananda is saying, he says that our worship in the shrine is more an act of love and devotion, having none of the external grandeur of ritualistic observances. While doing the worship, we should think that the Master is visibly present. So you must feel that this presence here in my heart is now there in that image. And it is here that I need to focus. In time, that focus will turn inwards. And as it turns inward, there will be a transformation of consciousness. You come to a place to transform your consciousness. And then you will see, oh, that. It's like a kind of a mandala. Your consciousness is like a mandala. It's a pattern. It's a beautiful pattern. And within that patterns are all the patterns of the universe. This is where you get connected to everything around. Spirituality is not just anything connected with selfishness. The very idea of spirituality is unselfishness. So you are connected because your that consciousness here within each one of us is the same consciousness that is dwelling in all beings. You cannot have separate consciousness. So you get connected with all things, and the whole universe becomes. And then you will know where I came from, where I am going. You will know. I am not coming from anywhere, I am not going anywhere. I am in my own existence, in my own consciousness. And in that you will see the universe floating and falling like bubbles. This is the culmination of worship, the real worship. And as we said, every activity then becomes a worship. My talking, my walking, my hearing, my singing, everything becomes a worship. My eating, sleeping, everything becomes a worship. Even my sleep becomes samadhi. We say, the guy is going to sleep. Say, where are you going? Samadhi. But once you understand the veil has been pulled away from that, the real consciousness, then these people who experience samadhi, they do not go to sleep like us ordinary people. They really go into samadhi. They don't sleep like us. They go into samadhi. So there will come a time when then you will see that the Lord is the real self. And the mind itself is the Divine Mother. Here comes the culmination of worship. Then all the worship, all the gods and everything that will come, they will come. They will be part of you. So you will be the symbol of this universal temple. And this is the universal temple that Shri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother and Swamiji had come to awaken. Shri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda says, Shri Ramakrishna has not given up his Ramakrishna form. So you will find that there are certain forms that are necessary as time passes by. Their forms have to be renewed. And these are the forms, the present forms, where this consciousness, which is your own consciousness, has taken an external form, as it were, and is absorbed back into you. You will embody Shri Ramakrishna, Ramakrishna will embody you. Then the culmination is, I am that. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Before we can break for QA, which is down in the basement below, a few announcements. Nightly, we have 6 p.m. meditation, Aarti and meditation. Wednesday at 7 p.m., the Gospel of Holy Mother, the online study class given by Swami Brahmatmananda, Jim, from Tapovan. Friday, 7 p.m., self-knowledge study class, and here in Seattle, online as well as in person. Sunday is Mother's Children Sunday School. Next Sunday, I'm going to speak on signs of an authentic guru. Uh, 4 p.m. devotional singing group. This evening, we have Ram Naam also at 7 p.m. Om, peace, peace, peace.